Top 40 list has been updated and promoted and pushed on warchant.com, Tom. And I would bring it up here. Obviously, if you haven't been paying attention, our staff ranked the players. We are the original of the top 40 players rankings list of the groups that cover Florida State football. Old school. And if you missed 36 through 40, you can click on it and find it on the site. 31 through 35, you can do the same, 26 through 30, 21 through 25. And the latest installment is 16 through 20. I don't know. I'm probably catching you off guard a little bit with this, but I don't know if we want to post how the voting occurred. But I will tell you who those folks are. I can update you on that. Tight end Kyle Morlock, who I want to talk about for a second. I do have those numbers in front of me. Gene had him at 18, Ira 17, Corey 21. I had him at 27. Tom, you had him at 20. Aslan also had him at 27. And Matt Lacerra had him at 12. Let's talk about the role of tight end Kyle Morlock. I think it's an interesting one.
So the reason I put him as high as 20 is because of the dearth of proven wide receiver targets. So I think his value goes up in that situation as a pass catcher. Mm-hmm. And speaking to Chris Thompson, he says that the number one thing for Kyle in this offseason is to get stronger so he can block better. If he is an adequate to better than adequate blocker, I'd be surprised when it's all shaking out at the end of this year. That doesn't mean that they can't develop, and Chris Thompson hasn't done a good job of that position. Doesn't seem to be in his nature. It seems like that's more of Jackson West's job, and then Landon Thomas would be the future H-back. But it's just I put him high enough at 20, and I feel like that's borderline a little bit too high. But it's just because I don't know who the second pass catcher is going to be. And for DJ, he did use the tight end quite a bit at Clemson. I don't know as much at Oregon. Oregon State, I don't know that they had a target the way they did at Clemson. But it's just, if you've got Malik Benson on the outside and you've got a slot receiver who's quick and shifty, you're missing a larger target. And so for red zone purposes and for general purposes of who's going to be one of your top 4 targeted players that's not out of the backfield, not a running back, I think it's Kyle Morlock. So that's why I have him at 20.
Yeah, I think we are on the same plane. I had him at 27, so we're all pretty close there. I would have had him higher if I knew for certain that he was going to take a step forward as a blocker. But I don't know that. I'm with you on that front. It is in his best interest to become a much better blocker. And I say that thinking about his future, because as a pass catcher and as a target, he is, a sky's the limit. You're talking about 6'7". He does have good hands. He's a plus route runner. If you can block, obviously the pros will salivate at that skill set. You need him to block here for the purposes of obviously having the versatility of not tipping the hand when he's in the game. There's a guy that if he blocks, changes things for you offensively. Teams are going to have a hard time kind of gearing up for what he is if he's not one-dimensional. So I feel like he'll work at it because he's put on size since he got here. How you perform in the weight room, how you approach the weight room is usually a good indicator to me of your mindset and what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're willing to do. So I think there's a strong indication that Kyle Morlock wants to be a better football player, that Kyle Morlock wants to improve his stock and play a more important role. And I judge that based on what he's done in the weight room since he's arrived. So I think there's a reason to kind of watch with a bit of eagerness when we get into the fall camp, Tom, because maybe this, think about it now, that's a lot of time at the end of spring. Well, I say a significant amount of time at the end of spring to the start of fall camp to really attack the gym, really attack the diet, really attack putting on size, working on technique, studying film that makes you better. And I think he'll be willing to do that. He's come a long way already.
Agreed. It's a ton of time relative to the gains that we saw from a lot of players from the end of the bowl to the workouts, the tour of duty. Some guys' bodies changed drastically. You're talking about 8 to 12 pound gains or losses either way. And that's basically no time.
Daryl Jackson transformed his body. Daryl Jackson.
And Josh Farmer blew up. He got huge, and in a good way. I'm not saying in an uncontrolled way. It's just, that is a TV commercial. In 6 weeks, you can do this. That's what those guys have done. Now you give them 4 months. That's an awful long time because, again, there's a ramp-up period to camp. I know it's going to start in late July, but by the time you're really doing things, it's going to be first, second week of August, right around there. So that's an awful long period of time to go hit the gym. And you're right. Typically, the attention to detail in the weight room does allow a bit of an insight into a mindset. It doesn't always translate, but
Sure.
there's another player in this quintet in this top 40 that did hit the weight room very hard last year, and you saw that there was a physicality and a snarl to his play later on, and that's probably why he's going to be ranked, I think, at 16 in this group. That's
19 is Lola Hea, 18 is Ja'Kai Douglas, 17, and we'll get to all these guys. 17 is Hakeem Williams, and 16 is Roydell Williams.
Okay, so it's Hakeem 17. Yeah, that's the guy I was talking about.
Yeah. So Hakeem is the next guy that stands out, and probably, we'll gloss over everybody, but Hakeem is the next guy that really stands out, Tom, because Hakeem is, I think, potentially very, very special. I think he could be an NFL wide receiver for a long time. He's got to do it, but very few are blessed with that size coupled with that speed. It's interesting. He transformed his body. He has all the tools, but he's really got the one area where he's got to prove something to me is he's got to catch the ball more. And I'm a stickler about these things. I was on Johnny about this. It really hurt his draft stock, by the way. Johnny falls that far solely because, funny thing, NFL teams like wide receivers to be able to catch the football with consistency. Hakeem had way too many drops in the spring, way too many. More than all of the other things that people complained about, such as he was covered too easily, people were physical with him. I think that's a byproduct of the defense knowing what's coming, coupled with a quarterback that's learning a new system. I don't concern myself with how frequently he was covered up or how frequently he had drops or things like that. In terms of the contested catches, I think he'll win those, especially when opposing defenses don't have a real good idea of what the effing play is going to be. But I do need him. It was the easy catches that he really maybe that was concentration. I don't remember thinking that he drops too many passes when he first got here, Tom. And that's something we really look at when we get new receivers is, all right, well, is he a natural catcher of the football? There are guys that the first day you see him catching the football, you go, don't have to worry about him. The ball it's soft hands. It's like an infielder, right? You watch the soft hands and the good feet. They always find a way to put themselves in a position. We look for that stuff early on. He never stood out to me as being mechanical. He looked like a guy that could catch the ball. That's why I was kind of surprised in the spring where I thought, maybe he's got a lot on his mind. Maybe he's frustrated. Maybe he's dealing with something. I don't know. But he didn't catch the ball very well in the spring, and that's the area where I think he's got to get a lot better.
Yeah, it's the details of receiver that don't have him that hold him back from being in the top 10, I think. Because if he was what his high school tape suggested in terms of a pass catching target, and even in high school he was kind of raw because of the size. He would just go wherever he wanted, do whatever he wanted. But I have him at 12. I have him the highest on staff, and it's because of his blocking. I just look, man, if we ran last year's offense, I wouldn't have him as high. But this year's offense is going to be predicated on speed sweeps and screens and quick hitters and flares, things that require a Johnny Wilson-like, blocker on the edge. And Hakeem, far and away, is the guy who loves it the most on the team to block on the perimeter, and he's really good at it. And so, again, I think he's going to catch plenty of passes. I don't know if he's going to be a realized, wide receiver in that regard this season. But even if he isn't, let's say he catches 30 passes this year, and it's a nondescript yardage total, 260 and 4 or 5 scores. Okay, that's not a ton of production relative to how you recruited him to come into Florida State. But if he does that, and he also is a guy who springs Jalen Lucas every other week for a 40-yarder or a 50-yarder, or you have Jalen Brown on a speed sweep, and there's Hakeem. Man, every week we see him driving somebody into the bench, and that's a gain of 10 where it could have been a gain of 4. All of those things add up. So I think the geography of where this offense is going to be played in terms of depth, I think it's a lot around the line of scrimmage. And in terms of north-south, I think there's going to be north-south running with a lot of speed east-west. You need somebody like Hakeem. He is very important to get what you want to get in terms of explosive plays. So that's why I have him as high as I do.
But I want to go back to Sione Lolohea, the defensive end. Corey had him at 11. I had him at 24. Tom, you had him at 13. This is interesting. Aslan had him at 14, Matt at 28. So there is some, in this particular player, discrepancy of what we think he's going to be. He is 260 pounds. I look at him, Tom, I don't know how you look at him, but I look at him as a potential edge setter that can slide in. Yeah. So his versatility will be important. I don't know how dynamic he's going to be. I think he's a nice position player for you, rotational player for you, I should say. I don't think he changes the game, but I don't think he's a minus player. I definitely have him as a plus player. I mean, all of us had him in the top 27.
Yeah, I have him as very important because he's going to make Patrick Payton and Marvin Jones Jr. better. I think those are your two starters. But look, I think this team is going to be defined by its defensive line, one way or the other. I think that's what's going to set the tone. We all seem to agree in different conversations we've had on different programs that the offense can be explosive. You say it's going to be more enjoyable to watch. I tend to agree, but it might be a little hot and cold. This defensive line, when your starters are out there, and I believe Marvin Jones Jr. is going to be a starter on the other side of Patrick Payton, and you got Farmer and Jackson in the middle. Like, that is fearsome. That's unbelievable. And that's the group that can help you close games. But when you have a player like Lolohea who can fortify the best segment group on the team, I believe defensive end is now the best segment group on the team, because Sione came to town. He was the more likely starter before spring. Coming out of spring, Marvin Jones Jr., I think, is the far more likely starter. They were rotating in 25 snaps a game for their backups at this position last year. You can give him 35 or 40 without breaking a sweat, and you can move him to either side of the line of scrimmage without breaking a sweat, which makes Patrick Payton and Marvin Jones Jr. more dangerous throughout the game. They go max. You allow max effort out of Patrick Payton for 55 snaps or Marvin Jones for 45 snaps. That is invaluable, rather than the alternative of let's take him out of the equation. And you're looking at Byron Turner or Aaron Hester, because Hester had a good spring camp. The drop-off is huge. So this is, I place Sione very, very high because of his versatility. If you're hurt at that position for a game, he absolutely can start. He was a second-team All-Pac-12 last year. He's a veteran player who has a role. He's trying to get better at pass rushing, really good against the run. He's a valuable piece to this team. So that's why I placed him that high, because I think that defensive line is going to be the group that leads the way for Florida State this year.
Well, I think you bring up a good point about what kind of a veteran he is. He's a red shirt senior. He's played a ton of football. That helps you immensely. He will not be overwhelmed with his responsibilities. He will not be overwhelmed playing in big games. He's played in a lot of big games before. And we look at that backup group, that unit that you're referencing. I think you brought up Byron Turner, who I like quite a bit. I like KJ Sampson quite a bit, by the way. I like Grady Kelly for his role. I don't think he's dynamic by any means, but I think he's an anchor there as a rotational piece.
Durajaye, because he could play both. I should have mentioned him when I talked about the backup defensive ends. He can flex either way, but Durajaye is more, I think he's closer to the football than lining up outside.
Yeah, and he's an improving and up-and-coming sophomore, too. So he's a guy that's only going to get better as he gets reps. Daniel Lyons is on that group of linemen as well. I actually kind of, when you talk about it and you say their names out loud and you think about what you've seen from them and what you discovered about them in spring, and then you go back and watch for those that have played in games. You've got film from West Virginia. You got films from Oregon State. You kind of had a chance to see some of these other guys. And then the guys that were already on our roster, obviously, we've seen quite a bit. So, yeah, I'm pretty encouraged by that group. There's just not going to be when we talk about defensive tackle, a little different than defensive end, but there's not going to be anybody that's Braden Fisk good. Of the backups.
Right.
Now the starters could obviously Farmer and Daryl Jackson could be incredible players this year and lead the way. But like that next group, do you have a guy that's like a Braden Fisk? No, you really don't. Do you have good players? Do you have plus players? You got guys that can really give you valuable reps? You absolutely do.
Yeah, I think in the interior, if you're hoping for a breakout player, it's not Kelly. Kelly is most certainly in your top 4. But if you're looking for a breakout player, I think it would be Durajaye in a pass setting because he's a combo player. So he should have skills against a guard that stand out more than against a tackle at the size that he plays at. And then you're right. I hadn't really considered that Lolohea in the 3rd and 10 could maybe flex inside and play inside because he's got the size to get off of a block from a guard, a pass protecting guard. That's a fascinating idea. But overall, their top line of the defensive line is really, really good. I think their second line at defensive end specifically gets pretty unproven / thin. I'm cold on Byron Turner. I don't know what to say. I mean, I could be totally wrong about that, but Lolohea's value is super high. I think he makes Marvin Jones better this year because Marvin Jones doesn't have to be out there for the rep count that Patrick Payton did in the second role last season. So if Marvin Jones is playing 47 snaps instead of 62, I think that means he's going to make a greater impact, and that's the value of Lolohea.
Ja'Kai Douglas, everybody knows what Ja'Kai Douglas is. I don't get caught up talking too much about Ja'Kai Douglas because I think he can be a very good player for what he is on this team. I know people think that I don't love him. I don't love the way we've used him in the past. I think he's going to be used properly this time. It'll be interesting to see what he does. He's been here for a very long time. Look, he had that game against Pitt. And that was a desperation game because we had nobody healthy. And I'll always give him credit. That was a 6-catch performance, over 100 yards. It was stunning. He's clutching that way. He's just so small that you don't want to be throwing the ball down the field to him. And I hate when we do that. And we did it way too often last year. Stop doing that. It's dumb. But the stuff inside, he's quick. And he is savvy, and he'll make plays for you. So I think that's all we really need to say about him. He's on everybody's list. I had him at 35. Tom, you had him at 17. Aslan had him at 18. Ira had him at 14. Gene had him at 15. Matt had him at 17. Suffice to say, I had him as a top 40 player, Tom.
Yeah, yes, you did. You had him as a top 35 player, in fact.
There you go.
I think we had him in the teens because of need. They need him to be the slot guy. They don't have a proven slot guy. It's just self-explanatory at this point. Now, let's bring the wheel route back because that helps. That matches with DJ more than accuracy over the middle of the field. The one concern I would have is DJ's inconsistencies over the middle. Catch radius ain't large, so that's no good. So we'll see. But they need him to operate over the middle. Just don't have a lot of proven targets.
Yeah, that's where I was hoping that, somebody like Jaylen Brown will emerge as the guy there. I think a little bit potentially more dynamic and a little bit better target. We'll see. If not, it's Ja'Kai all day. You're not wrong about that. From there, we did not talk about Roydell Williams. Everybody looks at the running backs and they think about what we've lost in the form of Trey Benson. But I really think this is a group that will be very good. There's just so many options. This is a guy that Nick Saban loved a lot, has had a lot of carries at the highest level against elite competition. I think you have to trust him, and I think he'll be a very good player for you. But I also think there's a ton of good players at that position. So I think he'll be the back, I guess the lead back, if you will, but they got a lot of options.
Yeah, this is a group that I moved down the deck. Jalen Lucas is the highest of the running backs, quote unquote. And that might make some people spit out their drinks because they think, well, Toafili is somebody that they're talking about a lot, or Roydell is who they brought in. Or for me, I like Keziah because I think Keziah Holmes does everything in one player, which the versatility should get him more reps. But I'm going to value this like franchises do in the NFL. I'm going to say that the running backs are less valuable than the offensive linemen that are in front of them, they're less valuable than receivers on the edge or the defensive line. I'm going to look at it like that because Florida State has so many of these players. They're not scarce at the position. It makes them less valuable in terms of the top 40 list. Doesn't mean that they're not very good football players, and Roydell Williams could have as the lead back. He might be the lead back, an excellent season. It's just for every situation you draw up, you've got two guys you like. In short yardage, Roydell is certainly going to be on the list of dudes that you want out there. But I think Keziah Holmes can be pretty tough, too, in a short area. If you're talking about top-end speed, Jalen Lucas is a guy. Lawrence Toafili is another one. Sam Singleton that you like for the top-end speed. Mekhi Danzy's not even on campus, and he's somebody like a short yardage. Cam Davis on 3rd and 1. Not a bad option. So you go down the list and you say, who are the players I like in these given situations? And Florida State running back has got at least 2 for every situation you like, therefore less valuable. So that would be my explanation for having him a lot lower than most people on the list.
Yeah, I like Roydell a lot, but I agree with your assessment. It's really matchup by matchup. I think you'll see this play out sort of that way. He may get the most consistent amount of carries per game, but there'll be days where Cam Davis is rolling downhill with those thunder thighs. There'll be days that Sam Singleton is breaking out and doing what he does. Lawrence Toafili catching the ball out of the backfield. Jalen Lucas catching the ball out of the backfield. Keziah Holmes, your guy, and his versatility. There's a lot. Short yardage situations. We're talking about offensive backfield. Don't forget DJ Uiagalelei. So they just on and on and on they go. They got so many opportunities here to be pretty dynamic at the position.